The ethos is actually in the name, Community Land Trust. Community, people get together, whether it's in a neighbourhood, in an urban environment, or in a rural environment, in a village or a small town, want to do something for their neighbours. Land, well, that is about how do you get access to land to put assets on. The assets we're talking about here are houses, homes, workspace, community facilities, and trust. That's the most important word. Trust is about that you're doing this not to make a profit, but to create an asset which can be held in the community, or the value of that asset in perpetuity. Community land trusts, though, are not a new idea. They're as old as the hills, in the sense that almshouse trusts, cooperatives, philanthropic trusts, trusts set up in the 1920s, they all did the same thing. If you like, a community land trust is branding what is happening in the 21st century, which took place in the previous centuries.
This is a model that can work for anything. You can think of community-owned sort of post office, pubs, all sorts of different things that are being lost in rural societies, but also in an urban context. This model works in anything that you think the public sector hasn't got the funds to develop. Then the land could be leased to a community and they can take their own responsibility for raising funds to do it in a different way.
It's an interesting political environment, isn't it? And I mean, obviously, it's a very difficult economic environment. So no one in the country is finding it easy to develop new services. I think what that means is that we're all having to think very creatively. We're not building enough new homes, and if CLTs can help to do that, then that in itself will be a huge contribution.
In terms of delivering actual housing schemes, at the moment we've completed 36 houses, and we have several more under construction and several more in the pipeline. So things are on a roll at the moment.
We've got something in the region of 12 communities who are setting up CLTs all at different stages, with Crosby Ravensworth being the lead trust.
A lot of the pioneering CLTs have managed to deliver schemes under sometimes less than favourable conditions, but with enormous tenacity and personal commitment that they've put into it. But the conditions need to change.
I think we need government to be more able to recognise the value of community involvement, and I think that's a growing recognition. We need to be much more able to look at finance and to get the right packages together. And that's again a two-way process. It's not just about what the banks require, it's about communities recognising what's needed in order to achieve financial backing.
The critical factors holding us back are development finance, and certainly in Cornwall there's a limit to how much development finance I can access through organisations which are new and which have limited asset base. So I think it's critical to develop a national revolving fund which CLTs can borrow from at reasonable rates of interest.
I think what we have to do is to persuade the banks that this is not high-risk lending. It is lending that will really help to stimulate local economies and bring benefit to the whole economy, and therefore to the bank that's providing the loan finance. I think the fact that government has said through the Homes and Communities Agency that there will be some money available to support good quality community initiatives like Community Right to Build and community land trusts ought to give the banks a degree of comfort. And I certainly think that if we in the Federation can help to provide a context, a kind of constitutional environment that looks solid, that will give the banks comfort as well.
I've been in this job nearly 5 years, and I've seen a lot of development, especially through the development of the National CLT Network, and great work's been done. Firstly through Salford University, then through Carnegie, now through the National Housing Federation, supported by the latter two. The resources that are available for CLTs in terms of publications, in terms of the website that's ever improving, has been phenomenal. Those of us that are practitioners in the umbrellas use those resources and rely on them.
The thing that is great about it really is just that it's going back to the roots of what communities used to be about. They used to do things for themselves rather than sit back passively and hope that an external institution would do the right thing.
The exhilarating thing about working in it is the energy and passion and drive that's released when you give people an opportunity to have much more of a role over the future of their communities.
It's a way that the housing need could be addressed. It seems to be the top of everybody's agenda, the need for affordable housing. But this has shown that communities can make it happen. You know, people pitching in on their local patch, if every village did something similar, what a difference it would make.
If we don't do stuff like this, then these rural seaside towns are going to die, because it will just turn into second homes.
This scheme is brilliant for keeping all the young people here and keeping them in the area and working in the area, really, and the young families to be brought up in the area again.
And now having my own home and building it myself with a garden, when you see it in weather like this, it's unreal. You can't kind of describe it.
To be able to provide a house and say, I've built my house for my son, is a great thing to do, great achievement.
It would mean a lot to me to stay in High Bickington, because both me and my partner have grown up here, and to have Chloe brought up in such a nice community will just mean the world to us.
And you can make things work. You can make an affordable housing scheme work. You can make your pub work for you. You just don't want it to die, you want to keep it alive.
We don't have enough connections between the people who live in places and the institutions that exist in those places and flourish in them and ought to be integral to them. So I am a big fan of the concept of community ownership. I think housing is a good place to do it, and I think community land trusts have a real opportunity to expand that into new areas that we've not previously been in.